Hi, everyone. I'm Carey Peña, broadcasting today from the Center for Positive Media. We have an exciting discussion happening here today, all about the intersection of art and AI. And I want to welcome my guest, Joe Specter, the CEO of Arizona Opera. Thank you so much for being here.
Great to be with you.
And renowned director and projection designer David Murakami is joining us via Zoom from Los Angeles. David, thank you so much for being here as well.
It's great to be here.
Let's tackle this straight on. You all are working on an incredible production of AIDA, and you're using AI. There's some criticism to this. I want to set the stage first about the production and why this is so important and significant.
Sure. Yeah. So I'd like to take even a step further back, if you don't mind. AIDA is consistently one of the operas that our community has expressed the most interest in seeing over the years that I've been with the company, 8.5 years now. And one of the challenges with AIDA is it requires massive artistic forces and very often massive scenic forces in order to bring this concept of Egypt to life. And that has made it a logistical impossibility for us to produce over the recent years, and especially coming out of COVID, when we're in a period of time where we're trying to not just satisfy existing audiences for opera, but also welcome new people to the art form. The resources of our organizations have been, under a lot of pressure. And so the question became, how can we fulfill our mission and bring work to our community that they're really interested in a way that also honors, at the same time, artistic vibrancy and limited resources. And that's where technology is coming into play with this production of AIDA. So, we are not in any way reducing our commitment to incredible singing and incredible acting through singing. We have a remarkable cast that's going to be performing live as this artificial intelligence film is being played at the same time. And David will talk a little bit more about the logistics of how that works. But I think that we're really trying to thread this needle. How do we use technology and this generative AI film in particular to be able to bring a work to our public that we otherwise wouldn't be able to do, and to do it in a way that we hope is really satisfying and exciting?
David, I want to bring you in here and talk about your vision. What did you want to bring to the stage here?
Well, it was definitely a challenge when Joe first approached me. The question, putting aside AI for a minute entirely, just the act of adapting AIDA from an opera to what is essentially a movie is sort of a daunting challenge. And any exercise in adaptation is sort of an inherently destructive one. As anyone who's loved a book and seen it turn into a movie later will tell you, it's fraught with challenge. Like, what do you choose to show? What do you choose not to show? And because film is so much of a visual medium, the choice of not necessarily what to add, but what to develop further from Verdi's original ideas in a filmic, cinematic context was a real opportunity. And so a lot of the choices that we've made to, give AIDA, our titular character, a little bit more agency, a little bit more power, a little bit more weight behind the choices she's making, we hope is going to honor everything that's already in the music, but also develop it in a way which makes it stand on its own in a cinematic context.
Let's talk now about the controversy, I guess, to a certain degree, about the use of AI, right, in opera, because opera is such a pure form of art. And so you grew up in the world of opera, and you've been on stage, and you've produced, and David, you as well, understanding the purest form of this art.
Yes.
I was reading some blogs from different places around the country that have used AI.
Yep.
And one of the things that I thought was interesting is a viewer comment was, I find it very odd that an institution dedicated to championing the arts is doing this. This was written into the Tulsa Ballet, I believe.
Okay.
And so I just wanted to kind of tackle this head on with
sure.
both of you. Joe, first to you.
Yep.
There is some criticism that goes along with it.
Yeah, and I totally understand and appreciate it. And let me say this, notwithstanding, any sort of personal or ad hominem kind of attacks, which you really can't do anything about. I will say that the people that raise these kinds of concerns, that we care a great deal about their perspectives. We care a great deal about them personally because they, like us, love opera and want to see us succeed as an art form and moving forward. And so, even though there can be even some fairly austere criticism and some harsh words, a lot of those people are really coming from a place where they love this thing, they want it to succeed, and they're just worried. And so let me say that first and foremost, I embrace them just to a one in that respect. Um, the one thing I will say, you mentioned, the purity of opera, or, somehow infringing on that. The theater arts in general have always engaged with technology. It's going all the way back to ancient Greek theater and the Deus ex machina, like bringing the gods in at the end and that kind of a thing. From that point forward, we have always used technology to enhance the work that we do on the stage. In recent years, we've seen the integration of things like projections and different kinds of mechanical innovations. I'm thinking of Robert Lepage's famous ring cycle at the Metropolitan Opera as experiments in which opera has continued to engage with technology, but that is not new. And in fact, in a period of time where classical art forms, if we want to call opera that, I'm kind of loath to call it that because it is something that has constantly innovated and changed over time. But as a broader culture, people will see often opera as something that's dusty in a museum and so forth. And for us to be able to share this work with a broader community, we have to take the chances of expanding our reach, expanding our impact, deepening how audiences will respond in terms of the artistic vibrancy of our work by engaging with technology. And some of it will work and some of it will not work. And that is the beauty of art. The thing that I'm absolutely certain of is that without trying things, whether it's new repertoire, new technologies, new approaches to engaging outside of the walls of the theater in our community, that there is not a bright future for any of these art forms because we are here to be of service and to serve a mission. And part of that mission is honoring and embracing and loving what is great about opera and has been great about opera for 400 years. The power of storytelling through the human voice, that's the through line. Everything else is a variable that we've been playing with for 4 centuries. So this is an extension of that. And I would say, to the extent that people are experiencing that as more abrupt right now, something that they're worried about, something that they have, in many cases, very valid concerns about, this might be more of an acceleration of the way in which we're engaging, but I would not call it inauthentic to the way that opera has progressed over its entire history.
David, I want to get your thoughts on that and some of the criticism, but first, I wonder if you could paint the picture for folks who might be watching to understand how you're using AI in this production. Sort of paint the picture for us of what this is going to be. This is like replacing some of the sets, so we can understand contextually what we're talking about here.
Well, if you've ever seen something like Star Wars in concert or Pixar in concert, it's similar to that. There's going to be a feature film that is playing above the orchestra, which is timed, synced perfectly to the action on stage. Unlike a traditional piece like that, however, the maestro is not going to have a click track. The maestro and the singers are free to be as expressive and to be as emotional and in their moment as they want to be. And the technology that we're using is going to reverse sync this film to be created live to that experience. So as with any opera, the opera comes first, the music comes first, no matter what. And what's being created, all of it is to some degree pre-rendered, as you have to with AI, because you have to put guardrails up for safety reasons. One of the big challenges with AI. But it's all sort of being, generated live to the moment, to the ephemeral moment that's happening on stage, which is the beauty of live performance. It's why we go to see live performance. And to Joe's point, I'll say that, as much as I sort of have recently been sort of a champion for all this new technology, AI in particular, AI is, I mean, to be dramatic, AI is soulless. AI is not alive. And the things that AI lacks, the human intentionality, right? It's an imitation machine, an imitation game, to use the phrase. All it does is it reflects what humanity has shown it, what we have chosen to show it. And it lacks any true heart. What we are doing and what I am so excited about is that by pairing it with opera, which is, I feel like, one of the most soulful and emotional art forms on the planet, together in that union, we are creating something that is truly, I think, special and to be excited about, right? Where AI
Mm.
filmmaking right now is just getting started. And what it can do is still unrealized. And yet, what we're doing now by pairing it with these beautiful voices and beautiful artistry and beautiful music on stage, we are creating something in the double feature that's happening above and below, that I think I'm really excited to see what happens because it is an experiment. To Joe's point, this is a wild new idea that we're hoping will really create something beautiful.
You have over 100 performers involved here, because one of the criticisms or concerns, I should say, is that, wow, you're replacing jobs for artists who need the jobs, for
Mm.
costume designers, for, whatever, set designers and
Right,
whatever, all of this.
right.
There's so much complexity to your production.
Yeah, the criticism that we're replacing people assumes that we would have had the resources to replace the people. The choices for us were more between doing a straight concert of Aida, or doing Aida the way that we're doing it, or some middle ground. But there's a multiplier in terms of expenses when you add in cost and scenery, costumes and scenery, because of the volume of labor that's involved. And in a literal sense, I understand that criticism, but it assumes that we have the resources to do a full production.
Yeah.
I think that Verdi's writing and these incredible voices and our Arizona Opera Orchestra are enough to fill an evening on their own. I absolutely believe that. But I think for people who are new to opera, it's going to be tough for them to be able to enjoy something like this without a visual reference as to what the storytelling is.
Mhm.
Even though we have always projected super titles, and people be able to follow along, concert opera can be satisfying. But I think that probably most or all people who are new to the art form, and many people who are steeped in the art form, will really benefit from having that visual reference. So I would say that the choices are between, again, more of a concert production that wouldn't involve any of those extra forces, costumes and scenery, or what we're doing here, where we've found this clever way to kind of hopefully thread the needle, with this film element. I also just want to mention, to David's point earlier, the way in which the film's been created, in instances that we're turning around material right now, but what I've seen so far is that David's approach is, and David, correct me if you feel differently about this, but I feel that you're deferential to the live performance at times, allowing the film to yield to the human voices that are being performed live on the stage, whereas compared with John Williams and Star Wars in a symphonic production, the live performance is almost an accent point to the film. It's really turning that paradigm around. David, I hope I'm not misrepresenting you here, but I think that's
Absolutely, it is in the same style as one. Well, there are two. Well, I would say the film is almost a puppet. That's sort of how I think I've been thinking about it. And what I've been aspiring to have the AI emulate is the film is as much as possible a puppet to be responsive to the emotions and the physicality of the singers on stage. Um, so yes, that is correct. And also to your point about hiring a team, I have not been creating this by myself, although sometimes against the sheer
Feels
size of
that way.
AIDA, it does feel like a little bit of a David versus Goliath.
yeah.
But my team of about five or six people, are a diverse team. And while we do not have traditional costumes, I do have a costume designer, Yuri San. I do have a set designer, although he's more of an environmental artist, Mikhail Greuli, who have been working with me to create these worlds. Because when you work with AI, it's a trap to think that AI is a tool for generation. It's not. It's a tool for realization. Even though generative AI is in the name. You go into AI knowing exactly what you want. You've done the imagination as an artist. You've created your vision, and then the AI is a tool to execute it, but it can't be the first step. And so all the costume that you will see generated in our AI worlds have been thought through very carefully about why we've chosen those colors, those fabrics, those textiles. Even though nothing is real, it comes from a real place.
Oh, it's so
And I think that
interesting.
intentionality is super important, and it honors the traditions of opera.
And what you gentlemen are saying is that you don't want to lose the humanity. In fact, you want to make sure that the humanity is front and center in this production.
Yeah.
And as I was reading through some of the articles, several other companies across the country are leaning into the AI. Philadelphia Orchestra and Symphony Choir, they're collaborating with AI. And I mentioned earlier, I misspoke, Tulsa Ballet. It's not Tulsa Ballet, it's Tulsa Opera.
Mm.
And so they've all leaned into this. And I find it really interesting what you're saying, David, about the fact that you are continuing to employ people to lift this art form up. What are you most excited about leaning into this production of AIDA? You have the chance to really make national news here, integrating AI and with this production that hasn't been on the stage for many, many years, right?
I think about 13 years for
Yeah,
us.
okay.
Yeah.
I was going to say, so what are you most excited about, David?
Gosh, I mean, as an artist, I'm always excited just for opening night, just to think small, right?
Mhm.
I am always excited to see how people react and how they might be moved by something they see on stage. I making the news is nice, but that's not why I I do what I do. Um, I am also just very excited to see what comes next, because on the one hand, job displacement, misinformation, exploitation, these things are well founded. These concerns are well founded about AI and deserve our vigilance and attention on every front. Speaking as a father and speaking as a citizen, these are the things that we should be thinking about and being cautious of. I grew up in the AOL Instant Messenger era, and we were cautious about that, and we have to be cautious about this. But that being said, the opportunity of what this has allowed, five people over 2 months to do what takes thousands of people over 3 years normally. And it's not going to be a Hollywood film. I'm just, managing expectations. But what we are able to do is extraordinary. And the doors are only just opening. I mean, 4 months ago, SDXL's Instant ID, which is the main algorithm that we use to maintain consistent characters so that AIDA looks like AIDA in every shot, which is important, was developed only 10 months ago. And I think Runway's Act One, which we use for the lip syncing, which is also crucial for an opera, was developed only 4 months ago. What's going to happen next month? In 3 months after this is all done, we're going to look back at this and say everything is completely outdated. So, as much as I don't want to anthropomorphize AI any more than it already is with the word intelligence in the name, and it's not, it's an algorithm. The film is alive, and it's this technology is just on the cusp of adolescence. It's just now becoming whatever it's going to be. And I'm very excited to see where that takes us, because it's a wondrous tool. It's a tool we have to be cautious about, because what it gives us is what we put in.
Mhm.
And the biases of these models are something that we have to fight against. I mean, I will say, the way working with AI in the context of AIDA has been a challenge, because traditionally Black bodies, Black voices have been marginalized and not been represented fully. And trying to do a project in AI where the protagonist is Black has been a real challenge, and has required us to do additional research and actually train our own models, which are more equitable, to be able to represent Ethiopian faces, Ethiopian
Mm.
hairstyles, which most AI models have a real hard time, honoring. So the opportunities and the challenges are there, and I'm very excited for what comes next.
I'd love to just mention here that we've been really fortunate to have the input of Karen Slack, who's a very well-known soprano, is serving as an artistic collaborator and dramaturg for this project. Karen was my AIDA when we produced the show in Austin, my previous opera company, and she brings not only wonderful insights in terms of this opera and the role itself, but also an awareness about how do you tell the story of AIDA in 2025. And this was actually one of the big sticking points. The beginning of our conversation with David, we talking about even other opera titles that we were exploring at that time, and who knows, may explore yet in the future. But back then, one of the main issues was this specific idea of representation and what it means to tell AIDA in a way where that agency can be possible. And relying on a purely traditional telling of the story was putting us in a position where we didn't feel like we were achieving that. And really dynamic conversation between our team at AZO, David and Karen. I think we arrived on this this really fascinating world that David is creating, David and his team, I should say, to find a story that hopefully is more impactful and more authentic in this day and age.
And you all have a very exciting leading lady.
Yes.
Metropolitan Opera star Leah Hawkins, who's making her debut.
This is her role debut. She's never done AIDA before. So this is one of those wonderful things about working in a company like Arizona Opera, because we're a nationally recognized organization, but we're also still a regional opera company. And so someone like Leah, who did such a magnificent job for us in the title role of Ariadne of Naxos a couple of years ago, can come to a place like Arizona Opera and try a role like AIDA here before she takes it to, for instance, the Metropolitan Opera or something like that. And so it's a privilege for us to be able to, as an organization, nurture talent like Leah's when they're taking on a role for this. The idea of a role debut is an exciting idea inherently, and I really think Leah could be one of the great AIDAs of our time.
She's a superstar.
Yeah.
She's so talented.
And think about this: if we weren't producing AIDA in this way without the visual aid, we might not have done this piece at all. And then Leah would be deprived of the opportunity to try this role out. And it's we're in an ecosystem. I'd like to think that over the years that we've hopefully cultivated in our community and our opera community specifically a sense of adventure, because we've tried a lot of stuff over the years. And our community has gone with us on that journey, whether you're talking about when we opened up the Red series with Maria de Buenos Aires and Charlie Parker's Yardbird, the opera about Frank Lloyd Wright's Shining Brow. We created a graphic novel based on Carmen. We created a film, The Copper Queen, about the haunted hotel of the same name in Bisbee. We even had a film and live music hybrid, Patrick Morganelli's Hercules versus Vampires, and all of that is it's not about novelty. It's about trying to curate a sense of adventure to bring the art form forward, not for its own sake, but so that we can be of greater service, achieve the mission of elevating and connecting a community through storytelling and song.
I love that. And as we round out the discussion, David, I wonder if I could leave you with this, to answer for the audience. Is your goal here, obviously you want to bring the most beautiful production, and I love everything that you've said in this interview. And thank you for your honesty and being willing to just talk frankly about the criticism. But are you concerned about this potentially being a dying art form, and we need to bring this into a more modern space? What is kind of your thought process as you move into this in 2025 with this incredible production of AIDA?
No, I don't think opera is a dying art form. I mean, certainly in the current climate, as you see all across the country, opera companies are having a hard time financially, dwindling resources, certainly. But no, I wouldn't necessarily see opera as a dying art form, but I do see opera in a place, as it perhaps always has been, of opportunity and transformation. The metaphor that I used when Joe came to me about this and the idea of turning it into a film was that to some degree, AIDA and all of opera exists as if in a museum behind glass. And the moment that you expose it to air and bring it out into the light of an art gallery and take it out of that museum, you are taking a risk. And I think, for better or for worse, that risk is something that has always been inherent to music, to art, in every way. I mean, in terms of my ultimate goal, my goal, I don't, there are many lofty things we could aspire to in terms of moving the art form forward and changing AI and uniting things together. My goal is very much set on opening night and creating something amazing for this production. It's always sort of keep my blinders on, keep myself grounded. But I think back to, what is it, Rite of Spring, where after it premiered there were riots. People died. I don't know, like if only I could aspire to create something that would incite a riot.
Chairs are bolted down at Symphony Hall. And
but the reality is that art has always been in a state of transformation. That has been the legacy of art always. And opera is not necessarily something, I think, that needs to be saved or preserved. It is what it is, and it will continue to transform as all art forms do. We just have to be open to what comes next.
I love that. And Joe, I'll leave you with the final word.
Well, first of all, we're so fortunate to have wonderful people that we get to work with. There's a collaborative nature when you're taking a chance like this, and to have a partner like David, to have a partner like Karen, to have a staff of an organization, a board, and a community that are all willing to take part in this kind of experiment. It means everything, because David's right. These art forms, they aren't in a glass case. They're in constant state of transformation, and not every opera community is willing to go on the journey of trying something new, something exciting, something that we hope will move things forward in a really positive way. I just feel a lot of gratitude, especially with this being my final production with the company, to be able to go out in a way that says we are continuing to look forward, and we are committed to embracing, maybe ironically in this context of this conversation, but embracing people and hopefully bringing people closer together through this really novel approach. So I think I end on gratitude.
Well, congratulations for an incredible run here at the opera. And I know this is going to be a tremendous success. I can't wait to see the show. David, thank you so much for taking time. I know you're incredibly busy trying to get everything together. So we appreciate you coming to us from Los Angeles. And Joe, thank you as always for joining us here in the studio. Appreciate both of you.
Thank you.
And the honest conversation. And thanks to all of you for joining us. I'm Carey Peña, broadcasting today from the Center for Positive Media. Take care.